My wife Melinda and I are going to be taking our daughter Anna off to her first year of college at the end of this week. And so we're going through all the normal emotions that you do. We're excited that she's going to go off and learn and grow. And yet at the same time, we're sad because we're going to miss her an awful lot. And she's the first one of our kids to leave the nest. And so it has this feeling of the beginning of a brand new season, a new and unknown season in our lives. And so it made me think of Ecclesiastes 3, which talks about the seasons of life. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens." And then the passage goes on and it lists many of the seasons of life. It says there's a time to be born and a time to die, a time to laugh and a time to cry. And it really is true. Our lives are filled with all kinds of different seasons, and from time to time, the seasons change. And I think the author's point with all of this is that God is at work in every season of our lives, and that God is blessing us there, even in the hard seasons. I think it can be harder for us to see that in those difficult seasons, and I think that's often because in the difficult seasons of life, we tend to focus on the hard stuff. We tend to focus on the burdens in those moments a lot of times, rather than to focus on the blessing and on the one who is blessing us. But I believe that if we stay focused on God in those times, we will see that God is at work in every season, and we'll see that God is blessing us there, even among the burdens. Now, that doesn't mean that life is going to be easy, but it does mean that God will be with us and will help us. And I think that's what the author means later in the passage in verse 11 when it says, God has made everything beautiful in its time. There's a beauty in every season of life because God is in them all, and God is blessing us in them all, even in the tough moments, even in the hardest seasons. And one of the things that helped me to see that is that I have a number of friends over the years who are veterans, and many of them have talked about how it was their time in combat was the time in their life that they felt the closest to God, that the difficulty, the stress of that experience just drove them to God and made them rely on God in every moment. And they talked about what a great blessing it was in such a difficult season. In fact, it was such an incredible blessing that a number of them have said that they kind of miss that experience of being driven to God in that difficult season, because now that they were home and in an easier season of life, they found it a lot harder to have that same kind of closeness with God. So God is alive. God is at work in every season of our lives and is blessing us there. And our call is to stay focused on Him and to seek to really live into those blessings and not to be distracted by the burdens which will inevitably come in our lives. So I want to ask you to think, how is God blessing you in this season of life? If you have a sense of how God is blessing you, pray and thank God for that. If you're not sure, I want you to just pray and ask God to help to reveal to you how is He blessing you in this time. You might want to also think back over your life, over the different seasons, and reflect on how in fact God was blessing you in those times as well.